This is the Catch-All Podcast. Hello, Catch-All Nation. Hope you're all well today. This is Eric McIntosh with the Catch-All. This is the first installment of our new podcast. This podcast was taken from a webinar that we did with some folks who signed up to learn more about how to supplement with the Catch-All. We've had a lot of questions about how to supplement with the Catch-All. We've spoken with a bunch of companies who are making a lot of extra money supplementing with their Catch-All. So we just wanted to share that with the rest of the people. And that's why we're doing this podcast, to share information with y'all. This audio is taken from a clip from a webinar with myself and Heath Hicks, co-owners of the Catch-All, and Heath owns Avco Roofing, and they've had a lot of success supplementing for the Catch-All as well. So take a listen.
We're co-owners, partners here in the Catch-All. I own a roofing company out here in Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma. Eric was my first salesman of the year, the first year that I was going way back in the day. We use the Catch-All. We developed it, obviously, for our roofing company. We never really thought about selling it necessarily. We use it on all of our jobs. We have 20-plus kits or something like that out in the field that we use every day. It's not that the product can't be improved on, but we've done a lot of testing and experimentation on our own of everything that you can imagine. Supplementation is one of the things that we've been experimenting with more in the last year after the product has kind of hit the ground. We didn't really experiment with that before we started selling it. We run a success rate of anywhere from 30 to 50% on the supplements that we charge for it. Very, very simple jobs. We don't necessarily always supplement, your small 30, 35 square houses with just grass and, nothing around the house. We still use it because it still saves on cleanup and does marketing, but we don't necessarily supplement for a lot of those, although we really don't have very many of those jobs. We shoot for the bigger golf course neighborhoods, lake neighborhoods, et cetera, like that. On those jobs, we run a 30 to 50% success rate on supplementation, just depending on the carrier and the adjuster. Some adjusters have never paid for it and probably won't ever pay for it. Other adjusters love it and they pay for it every time. So just kind of across the board, we're running in that range. Doing some basic math, if you can succeed in your supplements 10% of the time and you use it twice a week, 40 work weeks of the year, that's 80 opportunities to supplement. And if you just get a 10% success rate, if you kind of average it somewhere in the $600 range, 8 times 600, what's that? I'm not the mathist of all math people. Yeah, 4,800. So if you got it paid for 10% of the time, averaging $600 per time, that's $4,800. So you basically double your investment at a very low success rate. If you get up there into the 30% success rate, you'll make 5 or 6 times your ROI on it. And so it is an important topic because it changes the Catch-All from just like a kind of convenience and or marketing tool into a revenue generator. The other revenue generating opportunities, we have a lot of customers that are upselling it, retail side or insurance. They're succeeding in upsells because customers, that's usually their number one concern after price and quality is, are you going to mess my stuff up? So people are having a lot of success for that. But with supplementation, we found, and we've gotten a lot of advice too from the guys at Balance Claims. They're the ones that we have worked with over the years. They kind of helped us develop a strategy for it. And basically what we do is the first initial inspection of the job, which at our company, we take 40 to 60 photos on the initial inspection before we even know whether we're going to get that customer or not. It's just a part of the inspection process that we put all that information into our CRM through Company Cam, and we sell the job to the customer, create the urgency, showing them the photos of the current state of the roof. We use those photos in our supplementation process as kind of the before photos. So our process is built that every job is always going to have at least 40 photos in it. And so we're going to have photos of all the elevations, showing the landscaping, the details and fountains and stone pathways and pools, whatever it might be that creates complication for, job site protection. We have those photos already. And so then our production people on the day of the install will take a bunch of photos. Our crew actually takes photos as well of their work at every job site, all coming in through into the job through Company Cam, just always streaming in there. Our supplementers pull the job site photos from that stream of photos to, justify the usage. Here's the before photos of the house with, showing what we are trying to protect. Yeah. Here's the photos of the day of the job with the system up, actually doing the protection. And
even photos of the setup help too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes they'll get that. And so we justify, our ask to the adjuster in that storytelling method with showing them the need, why it's necessary on this job, and then showing us actually using it. If you just supplement it as a line item, if you just throw the line item in your estimate, you're going to hover around that 5 or 10% success rate, which still pays for itself. It's not bad. It's still a smart thing to do. But if you put in the extra effort in your supplementation process, not just for the catch-all, but really everything you're going to try to supplement for. Really having those photos and documentation is going to be key for that. Having a master wizard of Xactimate in your office or as a third-party supplementer only gets you so far.
Right.
It's really got to be the documentation to tell the story to really get that. It is some of it of a paradigm shift, either for your in-house Xactimate people or your third-party supplementers, and specifically the homeowners and adjusters that are going to be seeing this new thing they've never seen before. There's definitely some customer education process in there, and even education of the adjusters themselves, just getting used to seeing something they've never seen before. But if you tell the story and you justify it well with your photos, and it may take some initial phone calls person to person, over the phone to explain it alongside your photos, which we definitely have had to do that over the last 2 years, from time to time. That'll increase your success rate as well.
Yeah. And a lot of adjusters, if they don't know about it, they're worried, is their boss going to get mad at them for approving it? But if they have a photo they can point to that gives them a little bit more license to to approve that stuff.
And I think as long as you're within the realm of reasonable, if you're, I've had guys show me their supplements. They've got $2,000 and $3,000 just for setting it up. And sometimes in a big house, they'll set up 2 of the systems on the same house and they get, a lot of supplements, but a lot of people are charging by the hour, which is how we do it.
Right.
We supplement per roofer labor hour. So it'll show the line item in there, specialty landscape protection, and it'll show somewhere between 4 and 10, maybe sometimes 12 hours, billable hours on there for roofer labor. But our average is around 600 is the average, about 6 hours. Again, the houses on the very low end of the spectrum that are very simple, that don't have anything, to keep our success rate higher and the ones that we need it, we don't even try to supplement for those. But like I said, that's got to be less than 10% of our workflow that is in that very simple category. We try to be reasonable. We try to talk with everybody. We want the adjusters to understand that we're really using it because we want to protect the customer's property. There's a safety element in there too. Keeps people out of our workplace, keeps nails off the ground for pets and kids and homeowners later. Adjusters like hearing all that stuff because it's all true and it all makes sense. It kind of goes back to that storytelling and documentation. So were there any questions that popped up in there?
What's the ×8 language for it?
Oh, the Xactimate language for it?
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
600 going rate. What companies love paying for it?
That's going to be real specific to where you're at. I would say it's not so much about the company for us as it is the adjuster themselves. Like, how well do they know us? Have they been working with us for a long time? Have we been reasonable in the past?
Right.
Then that's going to make it an easier conversation. But as far as I'm aware, I'm not the Xactimate master. They're using the line item specialty landscape protection. I know they tried bid items in the past, and then I know they tried.
I don't think that was as successful.
It wasn't. It was
labor hours.
It was labor hours. I think was the most successful for us. So that's how we do it. There's a million different ways to do it. You can ask for it for all kinds of things. I know there are guys that do bid items, but that's just how we do it. I know the guys at Balance Claims and John Dye, they have a lot of specific knowledge there that you can talk to them too, because they're basically the largest third-party supplementer in the industry, and they have a lot of customers that are using the catch-all. I would say they've probably got 50 or 60 customers that regularly use it, and so their team is experienced at trying to tell that story.
Right.
So
Carrollton said, have you utilized OSHA regulations in conjunction with the catch-all to supplement the request, in the supplement request?
No, not that I'm aware of. No, we have not.
We haven't. I don't know if anyone out there has.
We have kind of spun a safety element to it for adjusters from time to time. We're talking to them, but it's more about the job site safety of the customers and stuff after the job. Sometimes it's about the workers on the job site, keeping the nails off the ground that they're going to have to walk across, et cetera, et cetera. But as far as there's any OSHA regulations, not that I'm aware of. Any other questions you guys got? It's kind of wrapping up here, but
Dan says, love the catch-all. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks, brother.
That.
Yeah, so we'll kind of wrap up that conversation. Well, I'll answer whatever other questions
Here's
you got
another
now.
one from Trey. How do you overcome objection of just paying for the tarp instead?
You mean to the adjuster? The adjuster doesn't really pay for tarps.
Right. I think that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the way that we just tell the story, this is a specialty system. It's a real set of tools. It's not just a tarp off the shelf at Walmart.
Right.
It covers a lot more. It does a lot more. It's much more effective at the job. And a tarp without some sort of rig to set it up doesn't protect shrubs and flowers and bushes. It just doesn't. It may catch the debris you put on top of it, but it's not going to keep any of it from getting crushed or smashed. So I think that's the story we tell when they bring that up. Is like, if I have a tarp and I want to protect these bushes, I got to nail it into this or hang up some 2x4s and some plywood, et cetera, et cetera. It's the same story. It takes longer and it's more expensive if you actually do lumber of some type at every job site and you're setting it up and tearing it down. That takes way longer than the catch-all and actually costs way more over time than the catch-all. So the tarp itself doesn't do anything to protect the landscaping underneath it. It may keep the nails and debris out of it, but it's still going to smash all that stuff. And that's the biggest problem outside of nails themselves is keeping the debris off of the stuff, because if the weight of it's smashing all that stuff down,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bonus that you don't have to go in there and pick it all up piece by piece necessarily, but it doesn't protect it from getting ruined,
Right.
So,
yeah, and it keeps the heat.
and one of the kind of buzzwords that we've used with some adjusters that are pretty feisty about it is that we're trying to mitigate ensuing damages. There's continuing damages that happen in a construction site. We're trying to mitigate those. These people have a lot of high-end landscaping here, flowers, shrubs, Japanese maples,
Right.
whatever all that stuff is. The story of the lady who brought her great-great-grandfather's peony bush from South Carolina down here to Texas when they migrated 100 years ago, whatever that story is.
Yeah.
In doing that protection, you're mitigating ensuing damages, because these people deserve to have their house in as good a shape or better before they had their loss. And so this is a part of doing that.
A couple more questions. So Trey says, would you supplement before or after the job for the catch-all?
I mean, most of the time we supplement after, because we're not going to stop a job. Right. Yeah. The photo's got to be there too, to really tell the story.
Right.
And we're not going to not do the job without that. There is a strategy in supplementing before, and there's plenty of things that we do supplement before the job, but usually those are bigger things. They're not code upgrade items and stuff like that. We usually supplement for that stuff after,
right.
With a measure of success per item. Some items are high likelihood, some items are low likelihood. We just have a kind of a battened down system that we supplement for the same stuff every time, and we get it paid for a certain percent of the time. And those things that we supplement for after are usually not things that we're going to fight real hard over,
right?
Because we want to keep the relationship good, and we don't want to just waste a bunch of time just with a bunch of emails and callbacks and end up on somebody's list of contractors they hate, stuff like that. So
yeah,
we don't push super hard. I know you can find people that are more aggressive on the supplementation side, but we're, even with that mindset, we're still getting it 30% of the time we're getting it paid for.
Right.
But it's really about the storytelling.
I think it's been going up too, as more and more adjusters are familiar with seeing the catch-all.
It is, and it's the likelihood, our percentage of likelihood is going up specifically on highly landscaped jobs.
Right.
They're basically not denying those anymore, because, we've sent enough evidence of everything that they're like, yeah, I get it. I mean, those people have, $20,000 in landscaping around the front and back of their house. Nobody wants to mess that up. and talking with them about ensuing damages really helps, because they understand that in other trades much better than they do in roofing. But if another contractor has to damage something in order to get their stuff replaced, it also gets paid for if it gets damaged in the process of replacement.
Right.
So roofers don't use that too often, but mitigation people use that, basically on the daily. So they understand that language, and you bring that up and they're like, okay, yeah, I guess, it's possible.
Drew says, is the catch-all a bid item?
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, that's a strategy you could choose for yourself based on those adjusters you're working with. We don't do it as a bid item. We tried it. I know there are people that do it. It's a little bit simpler way, and it's also harder for them to deny something that's a bid item sometimes, because it's not a specific line item that they have a definition for. But even if it's a bid item that they don't have a specific definition for, they can still just say whether they think it was required or not. So it's totally up to you. I'd love to hear from everybody over time what works for you, and it maybe works. Different strategies may work better in different areas, but the key to all of it is going to be your documentation and the storytelling.
Right.
Yeah. Whichever way you charge for it, you've got to convince that adjuster that it was justified and necessary, reasonable.
We touched on this one a little bit before Henry was admitted, but he says, what's the average amount of supplement per job?
Yeah, so for us, we bill it by the hour, and ours is probably around 6 hours is what because the labor hours in Xactimate
unless it's a really big
97 or $98 an hour, something like that for
Yeah.
roofer labor. That's how we charge it.
Right.
And it seems to me that the adjusters, at least in our areas, seem that that's just a reasonable way to bill it, because they understand it's going to take time to set up. Once they see the pictures out there, they're like, oh yeah, it must have taken a little while to set that up.
Right.
So to answer the other question about how long it takes to set up. So if you have 2 guys on their first day when they're figuring it out, it's probably going to take them 45 minutes, maybe an hour if they're real slow, just trying to be really careful and figure it out. Once the crew kind of gets it and knows what the parts and pieces are supposed to do, it should be a 10-minute ordeal. Everybody jumps out of the truck, grabs a few pieces, and should be up in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, with 6 guys, everybody knows their job. You're not fumbling around.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if him and I go to a job site and we set it up, we've done it obviously probably more than any other pair of human beings, I would think. It would probably take us 20 minutes, 25 minutes if we were in a hurry. Yeah, if I'm just saying just the two of us,
Right.
we'd probably do it in 20 or 25 minutes.
Yeah.
But we've also done it a lot, so it gets faster with time. I would also say we probably would set it up way better than the average person too, because we know all the tricks
Right.
just of how to get it to stay up straight, how to get it to be tight across the side.
Right.
That just comes with experience. So they'll get faster, they'll get more proficient. It'll look better too if they realize that there's a look element with it. You want it to look clean and tidy. It's a part of the presentation of the job site
Right.
for the neighbors and the homeowners. And so there's a way to do it where you can kind of wedge the poles in and wrap them around a corner, stick them in a gutter elbow and stretch it tight so that the banner's real clean and not
Right.
wrinkled and droopy and stuff. That just comes with time.
And I think the tidier it is, the more likely you are for the adjuster to approve it.
Oh,
If
totally.
they see that a lot of work and care when it's
Exactly.
up.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. If it just looks like it was just slapped up there and it's all like drooping and sideways, and,
Right.
the adjuster may not take it as seriously. I would say 2 weeks into your guys using it, if they've used it 4 or 5 times, by then it should be taking them 10 or 15 minutes. And a month in, it should be taking them 10 minutes. I mean, it should just be regular part of the deal.
Yeah.
So we're going to do another call maybe next week or the week after where we talk about the production elements, how to get it implemented into your system, what your production people, your production department, or your sales guys, whoever handles that with you, for you, can get it to the job site and back, and whether the crew sets it up or a production person sets it up. There's a lot of different options in there. And some guys have had challenges just getting it implemented by trying to figure out who's going to transport it back and
Right.
forth and who's actually going to set it up and take it down and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
we'll do another call about that. But unless
Awesome.
there's any other questions, is
I
anything
don't
else?
see any more questions.
Okay, well, I don't want to take up all your time. Thanks, guys, for hopping in.
Oh, Morgan says our catch-alls come in tomorrow. Super excited.
Woo.
Any tips for first-time users?
Nice. Watch the installation video.
Yes. With your crew. We have one in Spanish. Appreciate y'all.
See ya.
Thank you all for listening. If you have any more questions, visit us on our Facebook, The Catch-All System, or thecatchall.com. You can always give us a call at 903-636-3100 or drop us an email at questions@thecatchall.com. Thanks so much.